My name is Anton Lutz. I'm a human rights defender. I'm a missionary. I grew up in Enga province. A few minutes ago, you heard about my work to help those who have been falsely accused, attacked, even tortured. Now, I've heard some people, superstitiously and randomly, believe that I am on the side of Team Sanguma. Others believe that there is a badass Sanguma spirit in Enga which somehow physically manifests as this Kila white man with dislocation strategia and drives a Land Cruiser and speaks with an Engan accent. Well, people believe all kinds of things, don't they? But more on that later. I'd like to share part of my story with you this evening. My story is part of a great story. A story with many characters, many adventures, many sorrows. It's a story in which virtue and values are set against selfishness and corruption. It's a story about perseverance, patience, and the hope for peace. It's a story about how, in each generation, we get to take stock of all that has come before us and choose what we will take forward into the future. I want to speak from my heart about the horrors of Sanguma accusation-based violence in Papua New Guinea and why you, ladies and gentlemen, can no longer leave this issue to a handful of men and women who are on the front lines. If ever there was a time when we need men and women to stand with honor, it's now. Our beautiful and beloved Papua New Guinea is fast gaining a reputation as a land where misguided men torture the helpless, a land where the police are powerless or even complicit to these crimes, a land where the followers of Jesus Christ can often be part of the problem, not the solution. There are a few of us who are working to change this grim reality: NGO groups, the Human Rights Defenders, the Sorcery National Action Plan Committee, a few church leaders, but there are far too few of us. Even though some of the nation's key leaders have made strong public statements, the nation does not yet see it as the nation's problem. Sorcery accusation violence is just another issue, something which only a few of us care about and speak out about. All of our talk this evening, I noted no one talked about this issue until I was introduced. That's a problem. Every time we allow the young men to drag a woman from her home, from her market stall, from the trail she's innocently walking down, and strip her naked, and bind her arms and legs, and begin to torture her, we are tearing apart the fabric of the society upon which we all depend. This is not just a crime against the woman and her family, but against our culture, our society, our nation, our future. It is not lost on me that in January 2014, I was the last man to hold Kapari Lanyeta in my arms before she was laid to rest. It should not have been me. It should have been her husband, her brother, her cousin, her son, her father. She should have lived a long and happy life. She should have been the one raising her beautiful daughter, not a stranger. And yet it fell to me to lift Kapari's abandoned and broken body from the morgue fridge and then to lay her gently into a coffin. How can it be that our beautiful nation had no pasin to show this daughter of Papua New Guinea, in life or in death? How can it be that her killers today walk free? That her family abandoned her? That her only daughter was tortured last year? A little child tortured by grown men. And that in the 1,962 days that have come and gone since the 6th of February 2013, the day Kapari Lanyeta was publicly murdered on a street corner in Mount Hagen, untold numbers of men and women, and yes, children, have suffered as she suffered and died as she died. These are daily crimes against not only individual citizens of this nation, but against the nation itself. How so? Your laws are ignored. Your sons and daughters, who sometimes like to call themselves the educated elite, are complicit to these crimes. Your story, as a vibrant and beautiful democracy that practices hospitality and seeks truth, this story is daily betrayed. Because these cold-blooded murderers and their many supporters are no friends of Papua New Guinea, though they have grown in this garden alongside mighty trees of the DY clan. They themselves seem to be rotten in their hearts, filled with fear and a curse of Misave. And what is worse, they are teaching the next generation that this is what men look like. Murdering, torturing. Guys, this is not what men look like. These are daily crimes against our faith. The voice of the church, the followers of Jesus Christ, should be the loudest and the strongest and the truest voice in this room, because we are the ones whose ancestors stood there under a blue and white sky and heard the voice of God saying, "This is my son, listen to him, follow him." And yet look at us, church. Church. Look at us. We're too silent. We're gutless. And even some of us believe and perpetuate the lie that somehow these accused women might somehow have taken someone's heart and put it in the pandanus tree. And if they somehow give it back, somehow the dead will live again. And so these so-called Christian men and women fold iman and stand by, and even participate in what is the opposite of love one another as I have loved you. I am the son of missionaries, going back generations. I know there's darkness, but I also know that the light shines in the darkness. This is the time that the light, this love, God's love, must kindle and shine deeper into the darkness. This is the time that you and I must look to the honorable trees of the DY clan and learn from them and be like them. This is the time to take our stand, to bravely and generously open our branches and share our fruit with those who have been accused, those who live in fearful exile throughout this land. It is time to educate our children that these false beliefs are not Papua New Guinea's beliefs. Not anywhere, not anymore. These accusations and violence are forever unacceptable, an evil of our past and in our future, never again. I am convinced that the time is fast approaching when we will no longer justify torture and murder, making excuses for it by shrugging our shoulders and saying, well, Sanguma's real, and we know because Papua New Guineans are more spiritual than you whiteskins. Also toko simlumia. Gyaman. Bipla Gyaman. Or as one young man in Enga said so eloquently to me, we in Papua New Guinea, we know what is what. Well, come to think of it, though I'm certain that particular man's head was full of nonsense, we do know what is what. We know these accusations against innocent and defenseless women are wrong. We know that Kapari Lingeta did not eat anyone's heart. We know that Kapari and so many like her do not deserve to be tortured to death, driven into exile. And we know that our beautiful nation will not progress at all so long as we sweep these horrific public crimes against our fellow human beings under the carpets of compensation and, well, pili blongol and something blongol. Because we know what is what, as a nation, we will rise up and choose to be a better nation, one which does not condone this behavior, one which holds our police and our politicians, our civil society, and indeed every one of our citizens to a higher standard, a standard of truth and justice, a standard of honor. With you, I look forward to the day these absurd accusations and the violence associated with these false beliefs is a thing of the distant past. My dream is that I will someday meet the grandsons and granddaughters of Kapari Lanyera, living safely and happily and fearlessly and proudly and honorably in their own nation. And I will tell them the story about how their grandmother died and how their mother survived, and how, in one lifetime, Sanguma accusations and violence became a thing of the past, thanks to the brave and honorable people of Papua New Guinea who chose and acted to make it so. I began this evening by saying that my story is part of a great story, a story with many characters and adventures and sorrows, a story in which virtues and values are set against selfishness and corruption, a story about perseverance and the hope for peace, a story about how, in each generation, we get to choose what we will do next. We have the opportunity to take stock of all that has come before us and boldly and honorably choose what we will carry forward into the new day of a bright future. I hope it has been perfectly obvious from the beginning of my remarks that this is not just my DY story, but your story too. It's our common DY story, Story Blumipla. And it's my honor and privilege to be a part of it. Thank you long haram Blumipla. And thank you long work Yupla by making. Long kamabi mo displacenis inside long country Blumipla. Gori can kiss him over a big name. Good night.